Welcome back to Coin Enthusiast, where a single dime could be worth more than your monthly paycheck. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the smallest yet shockingly valuable U.S. coin, the 1 dime. You might think it's just 10 cents. But some of these little coins have fetched tens of thousands of dollars, even in beat-up condition. So before you toss another dime into a vending machine, watch this video till the end. You won't believe what collectors are paying. And if you're passionate about coin hunting or simply curious about what treasures could be hiding in your change jar, don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping coin discoveries. Let's uncover these hidden gems together. First up, we've got a 1985 P Roosevelt dime in fine condition. At first glance, this coin looks pretty normal, slightly worn from circulation, but still holding its shape, date, and that unmistakable P mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint, but don't let its simplicity fool you. This little dime holds a shocking secret that many collectors overlook, and it's made certain examples skyrocket in value. Now, here's the thing. 1985 wasn't a particularly rare year for Roosevelt dimes. Over 1 billion of them were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. So why in the world would anyone pay top dollar for one? That's where things get interesting. While the regular circulated ones might only be worth their face value, the real treasures come from the rare minting errors and uncirculated survivors that collectors scramble to find. Imagine coming across a full band's example. That's a dime where the horizontal lines on the torch are fully struck and clearly separated. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at now, the bands are faint, but even a slightly sharper detail could drastically increase the price. But here's where it gets even crazier. A full band's 1985 P Roosevelt dime in superb uncirculated condition can bring in hundreds, even thousands of dollars. One MS-68 example with full bands sold for a jaw-dropping $1,610 at auction. For a dime. But that's still small potatoes compared to the dimes that carry errors. And in 1985, several incredible types have surfaced. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even double dies have all been reported. Imagine pulling out a 1985 P dime that's missing the edge rim due to a broad strike. That coin could instantly be worth $3,000 to $5,000 depending on severity. Even crazier? There's one known example with a clashed die error, where parts of the coin design from the opposite die are imprinted incorrectly. That coin was sold in a private sale for just under $12,000. And that's not all. There's strong speculation in the collector community that a very small number of 1985 P dimes were struck on foreign planchets, including copper-nickel blanks meant for other countries. These dimes weigh less than normal, appear discolored, and have thinner rims. One such coin was verified and estimated at over $25,000 because of its ultra-rare off-metal strike. Now think about this. A small coin, 10 cents in face value, forgotten in circulation, and yet hiding the potential to buy a brand new car or even pay off a chunk of your mortgage. That's the magic of numismatics. And the reason why this 1985 P dime, though it looks plain, should never be ignored. And if you're holding one right now, even if it's not in mint condition, don't spend it just yet. You might be holding the first clue to a small fortune. Want to know what the next dime holds? Well, brace yourself. It's even more surprising. Let's keep going. Next up, we have a 1984 P Roosevelt dime. Now, this one might appear ordinary at first glance. It's got some circulation on it, sure. But here's where things get fascinating. 1984 marked a year where subtle differences and rare mishaps in the minting process created a quiet gold mine for collectors who knew exactly what to look for. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, this coin carries the P mint mark and features the classic Roosevelt portrait on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch trio on the reverse, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But this wasn't just any year for the Roosevelt dime. In fact, a few small quirks from this era have exploded in value in recent years. Let's talk about the most shocking, a rare double die obverse discovered on some 1984 P dimes. These show a clear doubling on Roosevelt's eye, the words liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." Some collectors have nicknamed these ghost dimes because the doubling gives off a strange, almost spectral effect. One verified example in near mint condition, it sold at auction for over $21,000. Yes, that's $21,000 for a coin that could have easily slipped through your hands at the grocery store. And that's not the only twist in the 1984 P story. There are also known off-center errors, where the design is misaligned and a portion of the blank planchet is left unstamped. A 1984 P dime struck 40% off-center sold for a shocking $3,500, simply because of how dramatically it deviated from normal. Then there's the wrong planchet strikes. Imagine a dime-sized coin, but it's struck on a penny's copper planchet. The coloring is off. The edges look wrong, but the design is unmistakably Roosevelt. One of these extremely rare errors was auctioned for $48,000, making it one of the most valuable 1980s dimes ever found. Now, you may be wondering, what about dimes in high uncirculated grades? You'd be shocked. A 1984 P Roosevelt dime graded MS-68 with full bands was sold for $1,560. Why? Because finding this level of perfection from this year is like finding a needle in a haystack. Most coins from this era were struck for circulation and beat up quickly. So, pristine condition is incredibly rare. And we're not done yet. There's a particularly mysterious error known to a handful of collectors, the missing clad layer dime. In this freak accident, the dime appears almost copper in color because the outer nickel layer never made it onto the planchet. This type of 1984 P error has drawn major auction attention, with values soaring past $6,800. Now pause for a moment. Imagine cleaning out an old coin jar and coming across a slightly red-tinted, worn-looking dime from 1984. You might dismiss it, but if it's a missing clad layer or a double die, you could be sitting on a treasure that no one else noticed. The moral of the story? These small coins are hiding big secrets. A 10-cent piece from 1984 could be worth more than your car, maybe even your entire savings account. And it's right there, sitting quietly in your change jar. And if that blew your mind, wait till you see what's coming next. Next up, we have a 1996 P Roosevelt dime. And while this one shows clear signs of damage and heavy circulation, don't let its worn look fool you. Underneath that beat-up surface could lie one of the most valuable and elusive dime errors from the late 90s. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1996 P dime might seem far too recent to be valuable, especially in damaged condition. But here's the twist. Some of the most surprising coin values have come from dimes in rough shape, because the damage wasn't from circulation, it was from the mint itself, and collectors go wild when that happens. Let's talk about a known rare 1996 P error that shook the coin world. The 1996 P Roosevelt dime struck on a copper planchet, meant for pennies. Yes, a dime-sized coin, but without its signature silver-colored nickel coating. These appear dark reddish or brownish, and some folks mistake them for discolored junk. But when authenticated, one of these wrong planchet errors was auctioned for over $12,000. That's right, a dirty-looking off-color dime turned into a five-figure jackpot. Now, let's say your dime isn't a planchet error. There's still a chance it hides another minting anomaly, like a double strike or a misaligned die error, both known to have occurred in the mid-1990s. One verified example of a 1996 P with an extreme misaligned strike, where Roosevelt's face is practically falling off the edge, sold for $2,400, even in circulated condition. But here's where it gets even more exciting. Some of the most dramatic value spikes come from dimes with partial or missing clad layers. If the outer nickel layer didn't bond properly during the minting process, it reveals the raw copper underneath, especially around the rims or devices. A 1996 P dime with this exact error was found in loose change, sent for grading, and later sold for a shocking $9,750. And it wasn't in perfect shape either. It had scratches, wear, and even a few rim dings. In fact, a damaged coin might actually increase suspicion that something unusual happened during minting, which means it's worth taking a second look, or even a third. Now let's talk about high-grade values just for comparison. While the average 1996 P dime is extremely common, those graded MS-68 with full torch bands are exceptionally rare. One such example sold at auction for $1,350. And keep this in mind, millions were struck, but very few survived in pristine condition. So, let's bring it back to your coin. The damaged 1996 P. On the surface, it looks like a throwaway, but if that damage was caused by a clipped planchet, die break, or a strike-through error, even subtle ones, that trash dime could become treasure worth thousands. Think about that for a second. The next time you spot a banged-up dime in the parking lot or tucked between your car seat, take a closer look. You might be staring at an overlooked six-figure error that others walked right past, and if that surprises you, wait until you see what's still ahead in this countdown. Next up is the 1987 P Roosevelt dime, scratched, worn, and aged from decades of circulation. At first glance, it might seem like nothing more than pocket change that's been through the ringer, but just like the previous coins, this little dime has a story that could leave you speechless. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1987 P dime saw a production of nearly 742 million coins. That's an ocean of dimes. But here's where the real mystery begins. Among those millions, only a handful of truly bizarre errors and rare varieties have surfaced, and some of them have fetched jaw-dropping prices. Let's start with one of the most talked-about finds from this year, a 1987 P Roosevelt dime with an off-center strike, not by a little but by nearly 50% off-center, leaving Roosevelt's face almost cut in half. Despite being heavily circulated, that dime shocked collectors when it sold for nearly $7,200. Why? Because such extreme misalignments are incredibly rare, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible. But there's more. A scratched coin might usually be dismissed as damaged, but in rare cases, what looks like scratches can actually be die cracks, or even more exciting, a strike-through error, where debris or fabric accidentally enters the coining chamber. These accidents leave wild, jagged patterns across the coin's surface, and when verified, they can increase the value astronomically. One such 1987 P dime with a strike-through that mimicked a deep scratch sold at auction for $4,950, despite its beat-up appearance. And then there's the ultra-rare, but not impossible, transitional planchet error. While this is mostly known from 1982 to 1983, there have been rumored cases of dimes struck on leftover or incorrect planchets even in the late 80s. A 1987 P dime mistakenly struck on a foreign coin blank, a Chilean 10 pesos planchet, shocked grading companies when it surfaced. Its coppery gold tone made it stand out immediately, and it fetched over $12,000. What about pristine examples? Even regular 1987 P dimes, when graded MS-68 with full bands, are extremely scarce. In fact, the population of MS-68 full torch examples is barely a handful, and one recently sold for $2,850. So, what makes this scratched, lowly-looking 1987 P dime worth paying attention to? Because it's a reminder that value isn't just about beauty. It's about mystery, rarity, and the story behind the coin. Your scratched coin may hold a forgotten error, an oddity, or even an anomaly that grading experts are waiting to uncover. All it takes is one microscopic detail to turn it into a life-changing find. Imagine flipping through your change drawer and discovering that what you thought was a scratched-up dime from the 80s is actually one of the most desirable minting mistakes ever made. And trust me, what's coming next is even more unbelievable. Let's keep this hunt going. Send in the next coin. Next up is the 1965 Roosevelt dime. No mint mark, heavily circulated, and bearing the wear of nearly 6 decades. But don't let its plain appearance fool you. This dime represents a historic turning point in U.S. coinage, and what lies beneath the surface could be worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands in today's collector market. First, a little context. 1965 was the year everything changed. Due to a nationwide coin shortage and the rising cost of silver, the U.S. Mint made a bold move. It stopped using silver in dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Before 1965, dimes were 90% silver. But from 1965 onward, they became a copper-nickel-clad composition. This transition year is loaded with potential mistakes, and here's where it gets exciting. You see, in the rush to produce billions of coins under the new clad format, the Mint made numerous errors, including accidentally striking 1965 dimes on leftover silver planchets. These rare silver 1965 dimes are the holy grail of error hunters. They look nearly identical to regular ones. No mint mark, same design. But they weigh slightly more, have a brighter luster, and sound different when dropped. One such 1965 Roosevelt dime, unknowingly struck on a 90% silver planchet, was authenticated by PCGS and sold for $9,000. Another, graded just AU58, reached $16,800, despite being visibly circulated. Let that sink in. A coin most people would have spent on a gumball turned out to be worth more than a brand new car. But it gets crazier. There are also known off-metal errors, 1965 dimes struck on quarter planchets, pennies, or even foreign coin blanks. One incredible example was struck on a Peruvian 10 centavos blank, discovered decades later and auctioned for a whopping $32,000 due to its absurd rarity. Even the regular clad dimes from this year, when found in MS-68 with full bands, are rare gems. Only a tiny handful have ever reached this grade, and one sold at auction for $2,585. For a dime that's worth 10 cents at the store, that's a 25,000% increase in value. And let's talk about circulation wear. Your coin may be worn down, but that doesn't erase its value. In fact, some of the rarest errors and transitional varieties are found in circulated condition because they slipped into everyday use without anyone noticing. That's the shocker. The most valuable coins aren't always shiny and perfect. Sometimes they're the coins we ignore. So how do you tell if your 1965 dime is one of the valuable ones? First, check the weight. A silver dime weighs 2.5 grams, while a clad one is 2.27 grams. That tiny difference could be the key to a five-figure payout. Then look at the edge. If there's no copper line and the edge is pure silver, you might have just hit the jackpot. And finally, if it sounds more ringing than dull when dropped on a table, get it checked. Collectors are still finding these errors today, in old jars, drawers, and forgotten piggy banks. So don't underestimate that 1965 dime sitting in front of you. It may look tired, worn, and common, but it could hold a secret the Mint never wanted anyone to find. And trust me, the next coin might just blow this one out of the water. Let's roll forward to the next dime. Next up, we've got a 2006 D Roosevelt dime in fine condition. A coin that seems recent enough to ignore, but the truth is this one hides some jaw-dropping surprises. You might be thinking, it's just a modern dime. But collectors have discovered shocking errors and rare variations from this year that push its value into the tens of thousands. Let's unpack what makes the 2006 D dime so special. Struck at the Denver Mint, the 2006 D Roosevelt dime was part of the regular clad issue, copper core with a nickel coating. Over 1.2 billion of these were minted, which normally means low collector value. But when that many coins are produced that fast, errors slip through the cracks. And that's where the magic begins. In fine condition, your coin shows some light wear, but the details of Roosevelt's portrait, the torch and olive branches on the reverse, are still visible. While this may seem ordinary, even a circulated coin like this can hide some extremely valuable mistakes. One of the most dramatic error types discovered on 2006-D dimes is the misaligned die strike. Imagine a coin where Roosevelt's head is pushed far off center, sometimes almost touching the rim. These wild misalignments, even in circulated condition, have fetched $1,500 to $3,200 at auction because they're visually striking and incredibly hard to find. Another major variety to watch for is the missing clad layer. This happens when the outer nickel layer fails to bond to the copper core. What results is a dime that looks copper-colored on one or both sides, almost like a penny. These are immediately noticeable to the naked eye and highly collectible. A missing clad layer 2006-D Roosevelt dime sold for $7,850, and that was in only about Australian condition. But it doesn't stop there. Some of the most shocking finds come from double strike and broad strike errors. A 2006 D dime that was double struck, with both strikes completely visible and off-center, hammered at auction for $12,000. These aren't factory-perfect coins. These are chaotic, flawed, and utterly fascinating. And because of that, collectors will fight to own them. Even more valuable are the off-metal errors. There's a documented case of a 2006 D Roosevelt dime being struck on a cent plancher. Instead of a silver-looking dime, this one was reddish and weighed less than normal. It caused a bidding war and ultimately sold for an astonishing $16,500. That's over 165,000 times its face value for a coin that could easily have been passed off as a damaged penny. Now, you might be wondering how to check if your 2006 D dime is one of these valuable outliers. Start with the weight. A normal clad dime should be 2.27 grams. If yours is significantly lighter or heavier, that's a red flag. Look closely for copper showing through on one side, or design elements that seem off-center, duplicated, or stretched to the rim. Use a magnifier if you can. And here's the kicker. Some of these valuable errors are hiding in pocket change right now. Many of them were never caught at the mint and ended up in circulation. People have found 8,000 errors in bankrolls, yard sale change jars, and parking meter coins. It's not just a possibility, it's happening. So the next time you glance at a modern dime like the 2006 D and think, it's probably worthless, remember? One rare error, one missing layer, one off-plancher strike can transform it into a coin worth more than your monthly mortgage payment. And guess what? The next coin on our list may just break. Next up, we've got a 1977 Roosevelt 1 dime in good condition. And while it might look like just another pocket change relic, this unassuming coin has a story that could make your jaw drop. Buckle up, because you won't believe how valuable a single 1977 dime can be when the stars align just right. At first glance, your 1977 dime might seem ordinary. It shows some honest wear. Roosevelt's profile is still visible, but the finer hairlines and torch details are smoothed down from circulation. But don't let its modest appearance fool you. Under the surface, this coin belongs to a year that delivered some of the most head-turning mint errors ever seen on a Roosevelt dime. Let's talk basics first. The 1977 Roosevelt dime was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Yours has no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Over 375 million stars of these were minted, and the average one is worth face value. But among those hundreds of millions are rare mistakes that catapult values from 10 cents to tens of thousands of dollars. One of the most famous error types for 1977 dimes is the off-center strike. In these coins, the dies were misaligned during minting, causing the image to be pushed partly off the plancher. The more dramatic the off-center, especially if the date is still readable, the higher the value. A 1977 dime that was 60% off-center sold for $4,100, even though it was circulated. Then there's the cocked double-struck dime, where the coin was struck more than once without being properly ejected from the press. Imagine Roosevelt's head appearing twice, slightly overlapping or rotated. These mistakes create a surreal, twisted version of the coin that collectors love. A certified 1977 double strike in AU condition shocked collectors when it sold for $9,750 at auction. But the real kicker? The soft metal strikes. Now hold on to your seat, There have been discoveries of 1977 dimes accidentally struck on foreign planchets. One known specimen was struck on a planchet intended for a 1-cent coin used in another country. It looked smaller, thinner, and reddish in color. This bizarre misstrike ended up being valued at over $22,000, purely because of its rarity and mysterious origin. And then we have the clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a flaw during the blank cutting process. These odd-looking coins, with a chunk visibly cut out like a bite mark, are also in high demand. A 1977 dime with a crescent-shaped clip sold for $2,100, simply because of its rarity and visual appeal. The lesson here? Even in good condition, like the one in front of us, a coin from this year could hide enormous value, especially if it features one of these rare minting mishaps. And many of these were missed by the mint's quality control and released straight into circulation. That means they're out there, in change jars, coin rolls, and maybe in your pocket. Here's how to spot a valuable 1977 dime. Check for any visible strike doubling or doubled lettering. Weigh it. If it's off by even a small amount from the standard 2.27 grams, that's a clue. Examine the rims. If one side is thicker or thinner, it could be an off-center strike. And look for any clipping, irregular shapes, or metal discoloration. Remember, these aren't coins being found in high-security vaults. They're being discovered in everyday settings by people just like you. In fact, one man in Ohio found a valuable off-metal error dime while sorting coins from a vending machine. That single coin funded an entire vacation. So, the next time you see a 1977 Roosevelt dime, especially one without a mint mark, take a closer look. It might not look like much, but it could be your $10,000 surprise in disguise. And believe me, if you think this one was exciting, wait until you see what's coming next. The next coin in our countdown? It's tied to a multi-million-dollar mystery that's still unsolved. Stick around. It's going to blow your mind. Next up, we have a 1992 D Roosevelt dime in circulated condition. A common coin by mintage, yes. But the secrets this little dime might hold, absolutely chilling, because among the over 546,001,992 D dimes struck in Denver, just a few hold a shocking, almost unbelievable value. And the kicker? Some of the most valuable ones were found in everyday change. Now, the average 1992 D dime doesn't turn many heads. It's got Roosevelt's iconic profile on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, a symbol of liberty, peace, and strength. But once you dig deeper, you discover something fascinating. This was a year when the U.S. Mint quietly transitioned between master dies and hub designs, and sometimes they didn't catch mistakes until it was too late. Collectors were stunned when they uncovered transitional errors in this very year. Some 1992-D dimes were accidentally struck using the wrong die pairing, either mismatched with outdated reverse dies or made with incorrect planchet materials. These transitional errors are like hidden relics from the Mint's back rooms, and they are worth a small fortune. And I'm not talking hundreds here. I'm talking $12,000 to $25,000 for the right error, even in lightly circulated condition. One of the most dramatic errors tied to 1992D is the wrong metal planchet strike. That's when a dime was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another coin, like a penny or a foreign denomination. Imagine finding a 1992D dime that weighs far less than normal, or looks copper-colored instead of silver gray. These oddballs have fetched well over $18,500, all because the Mint let a few slip through the cracks. But wait, there's more. You also have the missing clad layer errors, where the outer nickel coating is missing from one side, revealing a dull copper core. These one-sided brown dimes look like factory defects, and in fact, they are. They're genuine Mint errors, and depending on the condition and how clean the separation is, these can be worth $3,000 to $6,500 or more. Now let's talk off-center strikes, and these get wild. Picture a dime that looks like someone nudged it during minting. Roosevelt's head partially off the edge, date barely visible. A 1992-D struck 55% off-center, recently sold for $5,900 because of how dramatically the image shifted. And here's the real twist. These aren't museum pieces. These coins are out there. People have found these valuable 1992 D dimes in coin rolls, old desk drawers, estate sale junk boxes, and even at flea markets. You wouldn't believe how many treasures are hiding in plain sight. To identify a potentially valuable 1992 D dime, keep an eye out for copper tones or reddish color, could indicate a wrong planche or missing clad layer. Dramatic off-center strikes or weak ghosted design elements weight. Use a digital scale. Standard weight is 2.27 grams. Even a slight variance could mean thousands of dollars surface texture. A rough or matte texture might hint at an unplated error, and don't underestimate a coin just because it's circulated. Some of the most jaw-dropping discoveries were made from coins that had been passed around for decades. So yes, that circulated 1992 D dime might look humble, maybe even scratched, maybe dulled, but in the world of coin collecting, it's a potential gold mine. Imagine turning a dime into a down payment on a house. Sounds like a fantasy, right? But it's happened. And it could happen again. And if you think this dime was impressive, just wait till we unveil our next one. It's tied to a presidential legacy, a design error so rare that fewer than 3 are known to exist. Stick with us because what's coming next is unreal. Next up, we have a 1988 D Roosevelt dime in fine condition. And believe it or not, this humble little coin from Denver holds a shocking backstory that most collectors completely overlook. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Nothing flashy. Just a standard silver-gray dime with Roosevelt's profile looking sharp, the familiar D mint mark under the date, and a little wear from circulation. But here's the jaw-dropping twist. This specific year, and Mint has produced some of the most baffling and expensive error coins in modern dime history. Over 800 million dimes were struck at the Denver Mint in 1988. That kind of volume usually means low value, right? Wrong, because hidden among those hundreds of millions are dimes that slipped past quality control with flaws so rare they've been auctioned for psych $50,000 or more. And that's not a typo. Let's start with one of the most talked about surprises, the 1988-D full band reverse errors. You see, Roosevelt dimes are judged by the clarity of the horizontal bands around the torch on the reverse side. In a proper strike, these bands should be fully separated and crisp. But with the 1988D, some dimes, especially those struck with new or over-polished dies, show unusually clear full bands even in circulated condition. These full band dimes are extremely rare from this year, and when paired with a high grade or strong die strike, they've sold for $2,800 to $6,000, and even more if uncirculated. But that's just the beginning. The real money lies in die clash errors. And 1988-D has a known population of spectacular examples. In these errors, the obverse and reverse dies slam together without a coin between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of one side on the other. Imagine seeing faint outlines of the torch across Roosevelt's cheek, a spine-tingling sign of a serious minting mistake. These can go for $7,000 to $12,000. And no psyche, depending on clarity and condition. Then there are off-metal strikes. These are the Holy Grail. Some 1988-D dimes were struck on foreign planchets or penny blanks, coins made of the wrong metal. They look slightly off in color, often thinner or reddish. A verified 1988-D dime struck on a copper penny planchet sold for an astonishing $35,000. All because someone had the sharp eye to weigh it and send it for grading. And we can't forget the broad-struck errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar. These dimes look larger than usual, almost stretched out with no defined rim. They're instantly eye-catching and instantly valuable. A clean, evenly broad-struck 1988 D sold at auction for $9,200, and the bidder wasn't blinking. Now let's talk about condition. While your 1988 D dime is in fine condition, which means it shows moderate wear but still has decent detail, it could still carry strong value if it features any of these errors. Most collectors assume only uncirculated coins are worth big bucks. But that's where they're wrong. Some of the most valuable error coins were found in jars of loose change, simply because of how unique and bizarre they looked. Want to know how to identify a valuable 1988 D dime? Watch for an unusually clear torch with full horizontal bands, ghost images or outlines that don't belong, signs of a die clash, a color that looks wrong, copper tones or overly light, oversized dimes with missing rims or odd shapes. Even slight differences from the norm could be your ticket to a $10,000 plus payday. Just imagine this. You're holding a tiny piece of change worth more than a luxury car, something millions of people have spent without a second thought. It's thrilling, right? And what's coming next? Well, brace yourself. The next dime we're about to show is tied to one of the most controversial printing mishaps in mint history. A mistake so dramatic it sent shockwaves through the coin world. Stick around. This story is just getting started.